go out hunting Claire. A waste of energy to rush home looking for her. She wouldn't be home. She was on her way to a far distant and hostile planet where, unless he followed orders, she would scream out her life in agony unbearable to even contemplate. The Centaurian was right. Kendo had not the iron will to allow this, even though a dozen planets were on the block. He worked like a man in a dream, and then drove slowly from Plant 9, along 10 miles of winding road, to the residential section reserved for scientists. The house was dark. He went through the back door and stood alone in the kitchen. The dishes had been done. The place was spick and span. He knew the other rooms would be the same, beds made, floors swept, but Claire was gone. Numbly, he wondered how they had accomplished it. He could have found out, checked at the gate, and probably discovered by what ruse they had lured Claire out. No doubt forgery was involved. Cleverly faked phone calls, perhaps. Even accomplished actors masquerading as guards or officials. But it didn't really matter. Not now. Finding out would only satisfy curiosity. No end would be served. Kendall went into the living room and sat down in the dark and lit a cigarette. 2 hours later, the tray beside him was filled with butts and his decision had been made. They would get their prince. Claire must not suffer. He got up and went into the bedroom and found the tiny camera under Claire's pillow. He filled out a requisition the next morning and took it to his section chief, the kindly grey-haired senior scientist who was responsible for the work of 25 juniors. He read the requisition, and his eyes widened a trifle.
The stats on the Willie 7 basic equations. I thought you were working on Nike 12, Kendall.
I am, sir, but I got a hunch the Willie coordinates might get me over a nasty little hump. There is a similarity.
Perhaps you're right.
The chief signed the permit without further objection. There was a numbed sickness in Kendall as he rode the elevator down to the file vaults and showed his permit to 3 sets of guards before he was admitted. Alone, in the long, narrow aisles where the greatest secrets of Terran defense and offense were housed, he walked like a man in the dream to the file he wanted and swiftly took his pictures. Then, placing the tiny camera into the cuff of his trousers, he went back to Plant 9. The 3-day leave was granted without question, Kendall having over 2 months due him. The chief was delighted that he didn't ask for more.
Where do you plan on going, Kendall?
Out in the air somewhere. The Yellowstone, maybe. Some quiet place to clear my mind.
A good idea. Wife going with you?
As a matter of fact, she went on ahead. Kendall watched the chief closely for reaction. Only a slight raising of eyebrows. After all, Claire could have gotten a permit without the chief's knowledge, even if Kendall's story had been true.
Have a good time, and come back full of enthusiasm.
Kendall replied in kind, and went home and sat down facing the phonovision screen. It remained blank for 3 hours. Kendall did not move. He smoked cigarettes and waited. Finally the signal sounded and he snapped it on.
The man in the voice.
The voice that now associated itself in Kendall's mind with nausea.
You have the film?
Yes.
Excellent. The leave?
Yes.
You will leave the project immediately and...
Not so fast.
I beg pardon?
I said not so fast. I am not satisfied with the arrangements. The voice turned cold.
The arrangements are not yours to question.
Nevertheless, I question them. In fact, I demand some changes. The man was obviously angry, but he held his temper.
What changes do you wish?
You said that after I deliver the prince on Centaur,
and iron out any problems our scientists might encounter in building the rocket.
Yes, after that, you will send my wife and I to Venus in safety.
Correct.
I demand that upon delivery of the prince, you send Claire on ahead.
Why did you ask this?
Because the one thing I'm selling out my world for is her safety. I will gamble with it for only a short time as necessary. The man considered. What were the risks involved? Kendall might be sincere in his reason, but if he were not, it would be easy enough to pick up Claire Kendall unprotected, as she would be in some Venusian hotel.
Granted,
he said. Better to give in than to argue. Centaurian scientists could spot a major hoax on Kendall's part instantly, and Kendall was under great pressure. Resist at this moment, and he might defy them, even with his wife's life at stake.
You will proceed at once to Yellowstone.
He gave Kendall